Okay, good morning everyone now, because it's Wednesday morning when I'm recording part 3 of the online lecture on social media commerce zone. So already we've worked through the first 2 parts where we've introduced the difference between e-commerce and social commerce, and we've discussed some of the aspects of social commerce, and we've gone on to talk about the purchasing decision-making process and how social media can play a role in that. So as we work our way through, what we're actually going to focus on now is the role of ratings in helping people make decisions. So this is an example of how things can go really badly wrong with relying on ratings. So at the time of the last Rugby World Cup, myself and my brothers were in Newport, and we needed some food, so we went on to TripAdvisor and we discovered that apparently the second best restaurant in Newport was around the corner from us, and to be honest with you, it was probably the worst restaurant I'd ever eaten in my life. So we actually kind of went in and dug through the ratings afterwards. We discovered that probably quite a few of them had actually been purchased from a click farm, or had been done by friends or whatever. They weren't really objective whatsoever. So there's a danger to ratings, but they're also when they're objective, they're extremely valuable, and they do influence people in the purchasing decision. So the idea is that the difference between ratings and reviews is that ratings are a quantitative measure. So they're kind of a score that people assign to something, like something between 1 and 5, or outstanding, excellent, good. So they're on a scale, whereas a review is a much more qualitative indicator. So reviews will have detailed comments about the object in question. So it's very easy for someone to go in and say, "Oh, that's 5 out of 5." But then if you actually read in, and you discover that there's aspects of what they're doing that aren't actually that good, or that what that person who gives the high rating actually values isn't that high. So if I want a quick bite to eat in the airport, the most important thing is speed of service. If I'm waiting 4 hours on a layover between flights, I want quality. So we need to understand the perspective of the other person before we know if that rating will actually be generalizable to our experience. So it's important to remember that they're not always useful. What they are is a heuristic. So the idea of a heuristic is a rule of thumb. So the idea is that it's more of a kind of a judgment, a mental model we have to decide something. So things like heuristics generally are, I'm going to pick the second link that comes up in Google, or I'm going to choose the second cheapest bottle of wine on the list. So the review is more detailed information. It allows you to go to a much deeper level. So it's more valuable to the to the customer. So if you're thinking about going to a cinema, it's a really good example, and a film has 5 stars. You don't really know what that means, so you go and you read the review and you discover what the genre of the film is, who the actors, what the plot is about, and you can actually then make a much better decision. Whereas, in something like a hotel, where there might be a standardized rating system that's kind of internationally applicable, that gives you a much better indication. So, in that case, a rating might be quite valuable. So something like a 5-star hotel is probably, top class no matter where you go. So, the real advantage to e-tailers is that they generate much bigger sales, brings in new customers. So, we will tend to choose the people with the higher rating. Other things being equal, you assume that the restaurant with the higher rating is better. So what's really interesting is the people who actually write reviews are a different type of customer. They tend to be more frequent shoppers, and they spend a lot online. So they're really valuable customers to have. So 95% of consumers report having read the reviews prior to making a purchase decision. So I think we're becoming better at that, because you get a few bad experiences and you suddenly start drilling into the reviews. So I did this with a class 2 years ago. I kind of checked out the statistic and discovered that practically everybody was. There was a few people who were kind of cynical and said they just, didn't believe anything that was out there, and didn't bother with them because they'd had bad experiences. So most people read between 1 and 10 reviews before making a purchase, and I'd say, that could be quite closer to 1 than 10. So 70% of mobile shoppers are more likely to purchase if the mobile site or app includes reviews. So this is really important because, especially when you're on a mobile phone and your screen is smaller, the amount of information that you can actually see and the pictures and whatever can be a little bit deceptive. So reviews are quite valuable. And this idea is that people actually look to see if there are negative reviews as an indicator of authenticity. Like, the idea is that everybody can't be perfect. So if you see a restaurant with 300 reviews, all of them saying it's 5 stars, it's kind of questionable that anybody can maintain that level of quality. And especially if you look in and you see it's Sweetman's Authentic Irish Restaurant, and the first 10 reviews are from Sweetman's or people from the town that it's in or whatever, you can become a little bit suspicious. That's the idea, is that people are actually integrating social commerce and social shopping apps into the physical in-store shopping experience. So we're actually looking at a physical product in front of us, like a television or whatever, while checking the reviews online. And I know I've done this out in Curry's and Harvey Norman, and places where where you're bedazzled by a range of features, that promises everything, when in reality all you want to do is to be able to connect it up to your laptop and watch Netflix. So issue around transparency. 1 in 4 people have seen reviews that they believe to be fake. So sometimes they're quite obvious that there'll be an unrealistic name or something. There's an article I posted to Twitter recently that was to help people to spot fake accounts on Facebook. The actual structuring of the first name and the surname can be a little bit too stereotypical sometimes, if they're being done by overseas people who are trying to mimic the behaviour of a local market. People are being paid or incentivized to post positive reviews. So there's questions around the ethics of this. In reality, we know that Instagram influencers and whatever have been paid to do things. But if I'm writing a review for a local restaurant and I'm after getting a free dessert out of it, there's also an issue around that. We see this incentivization most often in advertisements for banks and for other companies. Where they always state that John was paid a gratuity to participate in this advertisement. But this is the real problem, is that people find it really difficult to distinguish between what's authentic user content and native advertising. So what is an actual review that's come from a genuine customer, and what is it's come from the organisation. Certainly when quotes are taken and lifted out of context, they can be really disingenuous or whatever. But there's a kind of quite an amusing anecdote of a book that was published the other day, and the publishers obviously didn't read the reviews they were putting on very properly, very thoroughly, and the book on the front page had said, "Doesn't fail to disappoint." So the entire run of the book had to be pulped, because the fact that it doesn't fail to disappoint means it does disappoint, and the book is obviously rubbish, and they put this as a review on the front page. This idea is that if you're an incentivized reviewer, you're less likely to give a 1-star rating, and 4 times less likely to be critical of a review. So an incentivized reviewer is less objective, less critical, and therefore probably of less value to the customer. And Amazon has put a stop to this practice, because what they're actually discovering is what Amazon don't actually care whether you buy what product you buy, as long as you keep buying products. And the best way, from Amazon's perspective, that you'll continue to buy products is if that you get products that are actually of some value to you. So what this really means fundamentally is that quality of service is actually more important than ever. Some organisations will take a different view and say that the internet opens up an infinite market and they don't need repeat business. But the reality is, if you get negative reviews online, it will impact your capacity to attract new customers. So it's really important that that organisations embrace customer opinion rather than try and hide from them. So I was out for dinner in a new restaurant on Friday, and it was a complete disaster from a service point of view. Our food was late, they got things wrong, my wife's starter was forgotten, our children's main courses arrived 15 minutes after our main courses, and if anyone who has children will know that hungry children are cross children. Things, and then when they did arrive, it was chicken. It was supposed to be chicken, and fish came. Now, again, anyone with children will realise that a hungry child at 7:30 in the evening, when presented something that they don't like, can go quite contrary. However, the restaurant themselves actually handled the experience really well. They came over, they apologised, they offered us some complimentary stuff. We explained that we actually had to go home because we needed to put the children to bed, and they arrived with a bag of takeaway goodies for us to bring home, which wasn't great for my diet, but was really thoughtful and pleasant gesture. And then as a result, when local people were asking me what's the new restaurant like, I said, well, they're really trying to get the hang of things as they're starting off. But all in all, it's a very positive experience. I left quite a complimentary review on their Facebook page, and I'll be happy to go back again. So they actually their behaviour was a reason for me to talk positively about the brand. Now this is an example of a cafe in Dublin that's actually quite famous for its use of social media to get people talking about it. So the cafe itself, for all intents and purposes, is apparently nice, very pleasant, but what they actually do is they behave, somewhat outrageously at times on social media. So one thing they're famous for was that they said that if anybody was asking for a gluten-free menu, they'd like to see a note from their doctor to prove that they were celiac and not somebody who was just on a fad diet, which caused a huge amount of consternation, but it was all publicity. Got them talking about it, and the owner was able to go on and talk about the cost of running an alternative menu and different things, and the quality of their food and how they locally source their product. I was able to turn it into a very positive story. Recently, the White Moose was in the news again because a UK Instagram influencer contacted them and offered to do a piece on them to boost their social media presence, and they were pretty savage in their flaming of this person and how they responded, and really put the person down. And the person went on and said how terrible the whole thing was, and they were just trying to help a small business and whatever. And the people in the White Moose Cafe actually calculated what the earned media value to this person was. Now most of it was pretty negative, but the actual amount of exposure they got, and they sent her a bill for €1 million. That was a bit jokey and whatever, but it goes to show, that you can be really, you can really promote your organisation. You can use different ways of attracting attention to your website, but fundamentally it's based on having a product that people actually want. So something to really think about is, why don't all e-tailers offer reviews and ratings on their sites? And this is really what people are actually scared, is that that dissatisfied customers can use the review feature to flame the brand, is one reason. But another reason is that they're actually genuinely worried that competitors or disingenuous people will post negative reviews just for the fun of it, a form of internet graffiti, if you like. So, the way to get good ratings and reviews is authenticity, accept organic word of mouth, trust people, give a good service, be honest, acknowledge which opinions were incentivized or invited and facilitated, so it's clear to the person who's reading it what comes from it. This idea of advocacy is enabling consumers to rate the value of opinions offered on the site, so you can actually tell people whether you think that the ratings are valuable or not, and you can rate other people's. So encouraging customers to participate. You'll often see little cards on the table, and we're just going to run out of time now, so we're going to finish this slide in part